the Hotcast, episode 10.
Happy Halloween, everyone. It's a festive occasion, so we are going to be doing some pumpkin beers. But first,
I'm Brad Chmielewski.
my name is Ken Hunnemeder, and you all recognize
Charlie Trues. I think you're going to say.
From episode 8 and 9, and now 10.
Yeah. All right. 3 in a row.
So we have a number of different pumpkin beers. The first of which is from Dogfish Head, out of Milton, Delaware. Pumpkin beers are usually not just made with pumpkin; they're usually made with spices as well.
Just cinnamon and nutmeg and...
They more or less go for a pumpkin pie as opposed to just pumpkin, because pumpkin by itself is somewhat bland and flavorless. So the pumpkin does add some, but they always kind of add some nice aromatic spices.
Some nutmeg, some cinnamon.
Mm-hmm. This one has allspice, and I believe some brown sugar as well. So let's give that a pour.
So it's got a nice golden amber color.
Yeah. A lot of clarity.
Yeah, it's very clear.
Little head, like one finger.
Yeah, there's not much head retention to it at all. Real nice smell.
Ooh.
Spices come through.
Yeah, the cinnamon makes a nice warm smell.
Alright, should we give it a try?
Yes, we should.
Okay. Dogfish Head.
It's not too shabby.
Is this your first time having this one?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of my favorite pumpkin ales.
More mild than I was expecting. I
The
feel like,
pumpkin taste.
yeah. And even the spices. I don't know, I feel like it's
More beer.
more beer and less spices than I was expecting.
That's exactly what I like about it. A lot of times, to me, with pumpkin or spiced beers, like a lot of times you get that at like holiday time. They'll do like holiday spiced beers, and it's all spices, and it makes you sick because it's so sweet. It doesn't even taste like beer anymore.
It becomes gimmicky.
Yeah, exactly. This beers like this, you can tell the spices are there. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no hiding it. It's definitely there, but it still tastes like beer, which I think is very important when you're making beer.
Yeah.
So,
It adds a nuance to the beer. It doesn't take over the beer.
right.
Yeah, I think the spices come out more than any pumpkin taste to me.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the case with most, just because the spices have more flavor than pumpkin does. Pumpkin's like a squash, you know? So, I mean, I can tell that the pumpkin is there, but the spices kind of take over that part of the flavor.
Should we give a little insight on like what makes the pumpkin beer different than other beers? It's really just putting the pumpkin when they're brewing, right?
Mm-hmm. I've actually personally brewed a pumpkin ale, and I actually used real pumpkin and boiled it in with some of my grains, and then eventually pureed it and strained it off before it went into the big boil, so there wasn't a bunch of pumpkin chunks, and got that out of there. But used the same trio of spices that this used, and it came out actually pretty nice. But I mean, that's basically the only way there's a bunch of different ways of using pumpkin in beer. Some people toast the pumpkin before I didn't do that. I just used straight up raw pumpkin. And with the spice beers, they usually make like what's called a base beer, and in this case it says a full-bodied brown ale. So they'll just make a brown ale and then add the pumpkin and spices to that. So you kind of have to have like a base and then deviate from there.
Yeah, I feel like this would be a pretty decent beer without the spices.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a little boring, but with the spices, it's really nice.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Now I'm going to go ahead and extend a guess here and guess that this rate's fairly high on the Brad drinkability scale. Is it?
Very high. You could drink this all night long. Definitely though, October, November kind of beer.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's not a June beer.
That's why it's seasonal.
Low on the June drinkability scale.
So this is not a Cubs game beer.
And that's why...
Well, definitely not this year anyway, not in October.
Now I'm going to wait for the Dogfish Head vendor to come around.
Yeah.
On the Hunnemeder, I would give this take into consideration that it's a pumpkin spiced ale, I'd give it a 90.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is out of 100, right?
Out of 100.
Wow.
On a Hunnemeder.
I'm sad to say the Drew's Index has fallen out of favor in the beer community, so it's actually no one's really using it anymore.
Are you still gonna?
But I mean,
roll
but
with it,
this would be a 4,112, which is a good score, above average, very 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 good score.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else about Dogfish Head we should mention? We'll probably feature another beer from them on a future episode, just because
One of my favorite breweries.
Yeah, all their beers are usually good.
Can I be on that episode? I really like.
Aren't you like a co-host by now?
3 in a row, maybe. But yeah, Dogfish Head is in, I forget the name of the town, but it's in Delaware.
Milton,
Delaware. Can't think of really any other reason to go to Delaware besides visiting their brew pub. But
reason enough for me. I'm going.
We could be making a possible New Year's trip there.
Yeah, Brad and I might go, so we'll hopefully talk to them and maybe hook up something.
Nice.
By then we'll be like huge.
So Dogfish Head, you're watching.
even more huge. But they brew crazy stuff, very inventive stuff. Lots of special ingredients, a lot of additions. I mean, a lot of breweries make the pumpkin ale with the pumpkin and the spices, but they'll take similar approaches, adding fruits and different herbal elements and all kinds of crazy spices. They do it in a lot of their beers, so they're always trying new stuff. They're very interesting stuff.
And a lot of times they're using like ancient methods of brewing beer. Like they look up like these recipes and methods like Egyptians used to use. And I think the Midas touch is one of those that they use, like muscat grape concentrate, whatever it is. Thank you. But yeah, very good.
So, what's our next one? So
The next one
down.
We have is Jack's Pumpkin Spice Ale, and this is brewed by Anheuser-Busch. I'm gonna put this away because twist off.
Is that a Hopcast first?
Could be.
Yeah. So let's pour this out and then we'll discuss it. All right, so this guy is definitely, I think, a little lighter than the Dogfish Head. More pumpkin orange.
It's actually
Not as clear.
Yeah, it's cloudier, which kind of really surprises me. I would assume that Anheuser-Busch, considering that their flagship beer is, sparkling clear and crisp and mostly devoid of flavor.
Perrier.
I'm really surprised that they would release a product that's as cloudy as this. I'm genuinely surprised.
Yeah, I would usually assume that they'd filter the hell out of all their beers.
Yeah. Put that thing through like a cheesecloth or something.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely get a lot more, cinnamon?
I actually don't get much in the way of aroma.
I get some cinnamon. I'm with Brad on this one. I don't know what you're smelling.
I get malt.
All right.
Nope.
Let's see it.
Jack's Pumpkin Spice.
Huh. All right. Much more pumpkin.
I get a lot of apple.
Oh, I like that.
I get apple too. When you ever have like a fruit juice, it might I'm trying to think of a good example, but some sort of out of the ordinary fruit, like white grape juice or something, and you look at the back of the can or the back of the jar, and the first ingredient is always apple juice. Any fruit product, it always starts with apple juice, and then they just use that as the filler, and then throw a little bit of whatever fruit they want it to be.
The more expensive fruit.
This is sort of the beer equivalent of that. You sort of get a lot of apple, you get a lot of sort of generic fruity spiciness, but it's not necessarily pumpkin.
Okay, now this has a born-on date. We should also take this into consideration because it was born on September 1st of 2006. It was basically like 2 years ago.
All right, this is the trouble with pumpkin beers because they're gonna hide them in the back if they don't sell and bring them out next year.
I also think it's been hiding in my own fridge too.
Some tells me this beer was not designed to age well. I don't think it's a bottle conditioned beer that you're really going to want to age for a long time. It's not the case with this one.
It's 5.5% alcohol, so that's not really going to hold its weight too long. That could be where this apple is coming through. Sometimes you'll get like some cidery notes. If it's been contaminated, which I don't think that would be the case because Anheuser-Busch is a pretty big operation, so I don't think they're really going to have like sanitary issues.
It could
But
be sat too long
I
in the
think
bottle.
I think it may have sit too long. But
So the Dogfish Head, most people, you're going to be able to pick that up in the stores.
Mhm.
Right? But then this, probably
season.
even more likely to see.
yeah, you'll see this in season because it's distributed wide because it's such a big brewery.
I feel like they do one for every season. They do their wintertime one that's, I remember it's got a snowman on the label.
Yeah, what is that? Winter or something?
They try to sneak it in there like it's a craft brew, like you won't notice that it says Anheuser-Busch on the label.
Mm-hmm. I find this one to be like sugary, like a little too sweet, which is kind of what I was talking about where I don't like about some of the spiced beers. It didn't hit me over the head with the spice, which I'm happy about, because there's not too much of it, but
Right, they didn't try to throw it all in and be like, it's a pumpkin beer, just dump everything in.
Yeah. It's not bad. It's definitely not bad. It's definitely all right. But
It's lower on the drinkability scale, maybe around 55, 60.
which is surprising. Would you have ever guessed that two beers of the same style, one from Anheuser-Busch, one from Dogfish Head, the Dogfish Head would rate higher on the drinkability scale? I never would have guessed that. I'm shocked.
it's not as bad as I would have thought.
No.
But I'll give it probably a 65 on the Hunnemeder.
I mean, if I was at a party and this is what the people had, I would gladly drink it. I mean, it's not bad at all. It's good, but it's not great.
You could do better. I mean, for the money. A couple extra bucks, just pop up.
Not in a favor.
But if they don't have the Dogfish Head Jewel or something you're taking it to Thanksgiving, you might want to go for this. It's not bad.
Not terrible. And I bet if it was a little fresher, it would be even better. But not terrible.
So what's number 3 in the Pumpkin
Number
Fest?
3, this is from Southern Tier out of Lakewood, New York. And if you've seen anything from Southern Tier, basically everything that they make is Imperial. They make Imperial style beers that you would never think would be Imperial. Like Imperial Hefeweizens and...
It's just their thing. They might be sticking it on.
And we've discussed this in the past in the Hopcast. Imperial usually means more flavor, more alcohol.
Twice as much.
Usually twice.
Is it double the ingredients except for the water? Is that what it means?
That was like how it started. They would call them doubles, like double IPA or double stout. Now they've adapted this Imperial thing where they can be loose with that. Doesn't necessarily have to mean double, but that's how it started out, from what I gather.
But it's basically more ingredients relative to the amount of water.
Exactly. There's more malt, which means more fermentable sugars. The more fermentable sugars, the more fermentation there can be, which raises the alcohol.
I've actually been wanting to clarify that with you for a while. Thank you.
No problem. That's what I'm here for.
Facts on the show.
Southern Tier, just as a background, make a lot of great beers.
Yeah.
This smells amazing.
This is 9%, by the way.
Ooh.
So it had a similar color to the Anheuser-Busch, but less cloudy.
I think it's a little paler, like
Yeah.
just slightly, maybe slightly, and it is like more cloudy, like the Jack's is, as opposed to the Dogfish Head was very clear.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
It smells like pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
Like even the crust, you can smell the
That's
crust.
what I was just gonna say. The butter in the crust as it cooks, and the butter sort of melts, and just that roasted dough and the melted butter. That smell is coming through in the beer, which is amazing.
This was a scratch and sniff episode. You'd be
yeah.
loving it. So let's give it a try.
Yes. Let's.
Whoa.
It's just so smooth and vanilla-y.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vanilla.
I think the key to drinking this beer is to seriously, as you're taking a drink,
Get that bubble out of your throat. There you go.
Just take a huge waft in with your nose while you're drinking it. It's insane. Like orgasmic. Seriously, I came. I figured you would have come closer.
I want to keep the audience on their toes. Don't want to do what they expect. There's the pumpkin pie flavors, the pumpkin, the spice, more pumpkin than any of the other ones. Not just the spices, but actual pumpkin itself, which is a feat. Since we mentioned earlier, pumpkin is kind of bland on its own.
Mm-hmm.
They must have put a lot of pumpkin into the brewing process, and just even the crust, the roasted, buttery flavor of the crust, and then vanilla. I don't know where the vanilla came from, but man, is it good.
Yeah, because it doesn't mention anything about using vanilla, because Southern Tier does list a lot of their ingredients. They'll tell you what kind of malt they used, what kind of hops they used at different stages of the brewing process, and they say that they use pureed pumpkin here.
So they didn't use real pumpkin? Even though the front...
It's real pumpkin, it's just been
Pureed.
Right, but it's not cutting up the pumpkin right there.
Whether or not they pureed it themselves or whether it came out of a can, I'm not sure. That's
But the Dogfish had said real pumpkin.
real pumpkin, right? Like when I did it, I used real pumpkin, I just pureed it myself. So it could mean a number of things.
Oh my goodness. This is so good.
It's just this, I would say, is the grandad. This is my favorite pumpkin beer I've ever tasted.
I've never had one that's good before. This is really outstanding.
It's definitely more sipping one than the other two, where you could just drink it down.
Mm-hmm.
Lower on the drinkability scale.
But,
Can I guess the rating?
all right, you can pick the rating.
No! No, I want you to pick the rating, but I want to see if I can guess what you're going to rate it.
Okay.
I'm going to guess you're going to give this about a 45 on the Brad.
Yeah, I was gonna say 50.
Okay, hey, not bad. Closest without going over. All right.
But it's good. You could drink this for a while. And
I've actually seen it on tap at a couple bars, which was I give those bars a big kudos to have a crazy beer like this on tap. Pretty cool.
Let's go to those bars.
We should go to those bars.
Southern Tier, you're usually only gonna see, or I've only seen in the bombers like this. I haven't seen 6-packs or 4-packs.
I don't know if I've seen 6-packs or not. Maybe. They have like a couple of lower alcohol beers where they're just like regular ales, and I think I've seen those in 6-packs. Never seen any like the pumpkin or the higher alcohol. They have a lot of imperial things. Like almost everything they make is like 8 or 9 or 11%.
Did you say this one was 9?
This one is 9.
That's a good point. It doesn't taste particularly high in alcohol. Actually, you don't notice the alcohol at all.
Brian loves it.
And he's not a fan of the high alcohol beer. So if Brian likes it, that means that alcohol is well masked by an abundance of flavor.
What comes to mind when I'm drinking this is like it's almost like a recipe, like someone cooked it. It's not like they brewed it. Someone baked this.
Let's say it's homemade. Like someone brought it over to your house.
Charlie's mom brought us this beer. She like put it in the oven.
Put it in the oven and baked it.
And this one you just want to have like some cookies or something.
Yeah.
Just like sitting around the fire, like.
Total after dinner.
I would like to drink this with a nice slice of pumpkin bread.
Scoop
That would
ice
be
cream.
amazing. Well, yeah, a little pumpkin bread a la mode.
I think I'm gonna bring this to my Thanksgiving dinner wherever I end up. I'm just gonna have this for everyone to drink after the big meal. Everyone gets maybe a little snifter of it.
This is your dessert.
Yeah.
Instead of bringing
Yeah.
a pie.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need much. That's actually a really good point. This is something we were talking about earlier. Beer could be a great dessert. You don't always need to have pie or cake or cookies or whatever.
Wait, that did come up today.
If you get a beer like this that's an imperial or a double or something that's real strong, has a lot of flavor, a higher alcohol content, the beers that are higher in alcohol tend to be sweeter because part of the way that you achieve a higher alcohol is to add more sugars for the yeast to digest, so it ends up being sweeter. They could be a really great after dinner drink. They can replace dessert because there's so much flavor and so much complexity that it's like you don't need to be biting into a piece of cake. The complexity almost fills in for the texture that you're missing from physical food. I think they're a great. I think these crazy complex beers are a great alternative for dessert.
Absolutely.
Those are really long.
It's No, like even like what the super high alcohol beers, that yeah, it does require a lot more sugar, but I mean the yeast eat all that sugar, which brings down the amount of sugar in it. But if the alcohol is going to be that high, you need something to mask it. So they do purposefully with a beer like this leave some sugar in there. They don't let the yeast go that far because you can't just drink.
It's gonna be too much alcohol.
It's one thing to have a lot of alcohol, but it's another thing to have it blend well with the beverage. It's not just going to be tasting like you're drinking a Budweiser with a shot of Everclear in it, you know?
Well, it takes me back to college.
Yeah, I was going to say, not something we've never done before, but... Boilermakers, anybody?
Creamy course.
Yeah.
So definitely this was the best of the three.
No doubt.
And,
I think all our opinions, yeah.
and we shared this bottle between 5 people here.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't recommend sitting down by yourself and drinking the whole bottle. It might be just a little too much.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
It's definitely something to share, not only because there's a lot of alcohol and there's a lot of it, this is 22 ounces, but it's just fun to see someone who's never had something like this drink it and see, like, here, this is beer, see what you think of it. Because
Share the love.
honestly, because who's had a beer like this? This is insane.
Well, a beer like this, it's made for festive occasions. It's made for Thanksgiving. It's made to share with friends and family. I think this is a perfect beer to share with everybody.
I think everyone should go out for Thanksgiving and bring a bottle
Yes.
to their feast.
And with that,
Happy Halloween. Happy autumn Thanksgiving.
autumn season.
Yes.
Happy fall.
From the Hopcast. Thank you.